A few months ago, as a matter of fact, back in the spring, we were talking maybe 6-7 months ago, I did an editorial about Todd Standing and Jeff Meldrum and the whole controversy surrounding that, and I decided to leave it at that time. And I had also said that I was going to back out of the whole thing. Well, I think backing out of the whole thing was a mistake, because new information has come to light which does not portray Todd Standing very well. And I'm going to share that information via an article from the SasquatchVoice.blogspot.com from David Rodriguez about Todd Standing. And there are some things in the article that are strictly David Rodriguez's opinion, although I think he's correct in what he's saying. So, the title of the article is How Todd Standing Operates, Expose Stolen Site. This is one of those articles that has been a long time in the works, and frankly it was very difficult to write because the events were so damn convoluted. There aren't a lot of photos. It remains convoluted, and I may even make further edits or clarifications in the following days/weeks. However, this expose should shed light on Todd Standing in a way that will cause all his uninformed supporters to cringe and examine his phony claims. I finished it just in time for the Sasquatch Summit in Washington State so that people will know who he really is while he tries to look you in the eyes, telling more of his fantastic tales. Frankly, he deserves no podium to further sell his wares. If you'll excuse me for a second. His conduct herein is just one more example of how he operates. He generally gets away with things because he knows few actually validate his claims to their genesis. He often then covers his tracks by leapfrogging his way from one claim to the next without corroborating the prior one. Here are a few examples. And while most of his newer supporters weren't around for most claims he's made, a few of the longer term may recall some, like when he made the claim of Dan Hamilton and the 4 teens that went missing and were killed in his fabled land of Sylvanik. He used this alleged event to garner all sorts of support from the most gullible of younger supporters, and yet he never validated it and instead moved on to the next saga to trap those who are easily influenced. Many of you are also unaware of how he used shill identities on several different forums to write phony posts to build himself up and sell videos. The different identities and their IP addresses came right back to match Todd's same exact IP address. To his newest supporters who come along, you need to wake up, research his past, and start asking hard questions about Todd and his shenanigans. Most importantly, make sure you authenticate his answers. He will give you little validation otherwise, knowing you won't or can't check out his claims. Another more recent example of his methods was when Todd supposedly validated his own claim on the meaning of Sylvanik to Dr. Jeff Meldrum on the Bigfoot North radio show. He claimed the term Sylvanik to Dr. Jeff Meldrum on the... Oops! I'm reading another part of the article, sorry. He claimed the term Sylvanik, or Solvanik, was from the Assiniboine native language. Did Jeff Meldrum ever actually verify this claim? While I am no linguist, the words Todd mouthed out bear zero similarity to the Assiniboine dialect or accent. Sadly, this is how Todd progresses at pulling the wool over people's eyes, even those with a PhD. I believe Jeff was duped to the extreme. The Assiniboine claim is one more example of his chicanery in a long list of chicaneries. Another little tidbit that sheds revealing light on Todd is where he told Jeff on their radio show that he only works on a modest laptop at home. Jeff then acknowledged that this is all he saw. That's ironic because Todd's video production company, under his alias Todd Rockwell and ran by his sister Louise, had phone numbers in several different cities as well as a free long distance. Jeff Meldrum, do you think that just maybe something doesn't add up? Time to get to the nitty-gritty on an issue that Todd needs to be exposed and lambasted for. Likewise, there are certain respected individuals involved with Todd who need to realize they are helping perpetrate a twisted, engineered scheme. It should also be noted that any respected scientist is expected to maintain a high level of impartiality when it comes to being sponsored. This is why congressmen should not receive paid trips by corporations when they will be voting on legislation affecting related products or issues. Why do I raise this? Because it is my understanding that Todd paid for the original trips of Dr. John Bindernagel and Dr. Meldrum to the secret location in Alberta. No matter how courteous it may sound, in this case it is akin to drug companies paying physicians for product seminars in Tahiti, where doctors must ultimately watch the packaged sales presentations but not criticize, receive freebies, and then agree to dispense their product later on. This is essentially what appears to have happened here, as there was total lack of investigation of the varied circumstances before or after the fact. Once on the trip and enjoying the scenery, they have already lost the cornerstone of their impartiality because they have become obligated to their host. Ultimately, they find themselves silently endorsing events because they have been corralled and never do openly question the misleading information they've been bombarded with. They simply acquiesce of their criticism, which is effectively taken and used as endorsement, as we see Todd doing all over the media. Todd's standing is the drug company in this analogy, as he can repeatedly publish that he is supported by these PhDs without there being any qualification of it. It's only a minor part of the story and how Todd crosses the line. His followers and just about everyone else have heard Todd claim that he would have to spend countless hours trying to locate another Bigfoot domicile, right? So I guess he succeeded in that with where he took Drs. Meldrum and Bindernagel, Les Stroud, and Sonia Zohar, right? Well, think again. Todd Standing has essentially committed one of the worst transgressions in the Bigfoot field, or any other research field for that matter. The exact place where Todd took all these people and received all the credit and media attention for doing so was stolen. It was someone else's research site. This is equivalent to stealing someone's intellectual property in that the claims he made were even from someone else. Even the stick sign nor trees weren't his find. None of it. Todd stole another researcher's site and let everyone, that includes you, his loyal young supporters, to believe he, the Toddster, discovered it. He led you on by not telling you the truth. This is just like lying. This is the same place where he took Les Stroud. This is where he took Dr. Jeff Meldrum. This is where he took Dr. John Bindernagel. This is where he took Sonia Zohar. This is where he even took his dentist, LOL. This is where he took a few other people, too. He did, however, publicize how he impressed these guests, both on television and radio, didn't he? Did Todd ever credit anyone but himself on the air for where he took these people? No. And why? Because he wants the world to believe he is the greatest Bigfoot researcher ever. Or is he just a master at deceiving people? This stolen research site is where Dr. Jeff Meldrum had some form of encounter. Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagel, I am addressing you here too, because you really need to understand something very critical here. You don't have Todd to thank. Excuse me again. Todd Standing broke a cardinal rule in any research field. He blatantly stole someone else's hard work and claimed it as his own. Do you understand? It's easy to mislead someone just by not mentioning the truth. You gentlemen know the difference. Then he made you Meldrum, you Bindernagel, you Stroud, and others unwitting silent partners in his big lie that you are helping him expand because you are so thankful for the experience. Give me a break. Sadly, you each gave Standing undeserved endorsement without questioning his methods or asking others who know. You acquiesced and are increasingly becoming complacent in the lies. Do you really believe his videos are the real thing too? If either of you won't publicly question his stated questionable evidence or claims, how can you expect your work to be upheld publicly? How can you expect us to continue relying on your judgment when you haven't used good judgment with Standing? Your reputations are each at stake because those of us who have some tenure in this field have all seen you fall for a huckster in white. We're not the naive young followers of Todd who buy into his claims without validation. Many reading this may remember an article by Robert Lindsay. This is where the story gets complicated because it was another questionable person altogether who took Todd there, even though the original researcher had gotten in touch with Todd long before, and Todd knew he would be crossing the line. In the article, which is full of half-truths, it discusses how a certain individual named Aaron Arkin took Todd Standing to this location in Alberta known as Nordig. The fact is, Aaron himself essentially stole the site as well, and he had big plans in Bigfooting while working with Todd. Birds of a feather, right? Arkin basically claimed it was his site, even though the actual person researching the location had final say on who the site was shared with. Aaron was not to bring Todd there, but he did. Todd, however, has the silver tongue, and he swept right in and ran with the location as his own, leaving even Arkin in the dust. Arkin, not to be outdone, did the article with Robert Lindsay. Now Jeff did know the name Aaron Arkin, so was he under the impression Todd took the site from him? This is why Bigfooters must keep their research sites to themselves except for those they absolutely trust. Ultimately, the locations get ruined by people just looking for attention. In the article, AA talks as though he had a right to even invite Standing. He didn't, and in many respects, the article by Lindsay was very off track with respect to Arkin's position. Yeah, okay, sure, it is Crown land, but there is private research going on in public lands all over. It's about respecting others' research. So, if the research site wasn't Aaron Arkin's, whose was it? Well, his initials are KW in the article, or Ken Walker, also known as Skywalker on Bigfoot forums. Who is Ken? Well, he lives in Alberta. He is a very well-known taxidermist by trade. There is a recent National Geographic article that shows some of his work. He was also a professional outfitter in the region for 10 years. He is not some nobody. And for the record, and contrary to a recent claim, Ken is not Todd Standing's squatching partner. LOL. I wonder where that first originated. Nothing could be further from the truth, and Ken holds much disdain for how Todd exploited an area that was meant to remain discreet. Anyway, Ken Walker is a world champion taxidermist from Alberta. He has his work on display in institutions like the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, the Panda, and other museums. He has received a multitude of awards for his work. There is another good article on Ken Walker. Ken is someone with actual integrity, unlike what has been generated from Standing and Arkin. Ken is an avid outdoorsman and hunter. Ken has a very good reputation, and he also has a sincere interest in Bigfoot. Ken didn't want Todd at the site. Excuse me again. Bottom line is, the location that Todd Standing stole was already stolen by Aaron Arkin. This is one of the factors that allowed Standing to get away with it thus far, as Arkin's involvement seemed to insulate Todd and now others. Nobody would believe Arkin and Jeff wanted nothing to do with Arkin either. So was Jeff completely rolled over by Standing? It's difficult to say this, but Jeff, you seem to find it too easy to ride the fence with respect to Todd Standing. Likely because Todd led you to have some kind of Bigfoot experience, but Jeff, you owe Todd nothing. He stole the site and knowledge about it and took credit for it. Todd's standing was no better than Aaron Arkin in that both stole a location from someone else. This brings up an interesting axiom. It's easier to accept stolen goods when one doesn't ask where they came from. Here's what Ken Walker has to say about the situation. This situation was a real nightmare for me as it caused a rift between myself and some very good people who trusted me not to let this happen. I am used to dealing with seasoned hunters and forgot that there are less honorable people in the woods. Too many people get delusions of grandeur when finding real Sasquatch, and it's almost like they're children again playing musical chairs. It's just sad. You see, Ken has a few friends who are trappers who shared with Ken what was going on there. These are the real people involved who probably wish they had just kept it to themselves. Arkin begged Ken to take him there, but Arkin betrayed the trust he was given. The original licensed trappers are indeed very dismayed by the media circus their trapline area has become. I have some hope that by exposing Todd and Arkin therein, that the trappers will realize that they shouldn't blame Ken, who also hates the situation and wishes he had never trusted Arkin in the first place. Ken did take Arkin there, but it was under the strictest agreement that Arkin would never take anyone else there. One day, however, according to Ken Walker, on the same day Ken's mother had died, Ken received a call from Arkin asking if he could take Standing there. Ken told him no, and explained the situation about his mom. However, the greedy Arkin would still take Standing there 2 days later against Ken's demands and sad situation. It wasn't long before Todd was then going around Arkin to access the site just as Arkin did Ken. From when Todd first went to the site with Arkin to his taking others like Meldrum, Bindernagel, Zohar, and Stroud, it was only a matter of weeks to a few months for each. Todd knew of Ken Walker all along too, but had easy access around Ken by going through Arkin, while he knew Ken didn't want the site exploited. Of course, Todd never revealed the truth about the site, while he took all the credit in impressing those listed above. Todd even tried getting Ken to reveal the names of the trappers so he could somehow have some authority to be there. Probably because he knew one day it may come back to bite him. Well, that day has come. Now, there was a time when Ken did try to contact Todd because he was local and in the news, so he wondered if Todd was working nearby. But the present course of events with Todd taking credit deserves no praise whatsoever. Todd is hustling the poisoned fruit of someone else's hard work. All that sign where Todd Standing took Les Stroud, Jeff Meldrum, John Bindernagel, and others, where he claimed it was caused by Bigfoot, well, that information was from Ken and the original trappers, who told it to Arkin, who told it to Standing. Ken was originally informed of the activity here by his longtime trapper friends who ran trap lines in the area. They're the ones most angry over the situation because it's become a circus there, all because of Arkin and especially Standing. In case anyone is wondering, I first came across Ken Walker after he and I got to talking on Bigfoot forums, where there was a discussion going on regarding Todd's fake videos. This was several months ago, and believe me, this article has been a very convoluted one to grasp and put down on paper in a way to understand. It still needs work, I know, but more importantly, it needed to go public. Todd being given an unworthy seat at the podium at Sasquatch Summit gave me an extra drive to get this published for that event. As lengthy as this piece is, I'm trying to keep the mess simplified. As further validation of this article, in an interview on Monster X Radio, Aaron Arkin states he turned Todd onto this site beginning at minute 81:25. Aaron also admits he got this site from Ken Walker. At minute 86:25, states he showed site to Todd on Crown land. 88 minutes, Todd brought Bindernagel and Meldrum to his site. Todd never even mentioned Aaron to them on the air at other locations. The location was stated as being south of Rob MT at minute 109. Conversation with Aaron ends at 1:12, but discussion continues to end. While Arkin himself has lost credibility because he absconded the site from Ken, the information he gives still corroborates Ken Walker's original role here, and it remains constant that Todd took the credit, and even monetarily gained from the situation, as it provides him with a falsely earned reputation and marketing point. It is poisoned fruit. Jeff Meldrum, John Bindernagel, Les Stroud, and Sonia Zohar, you should really do more homework on Todd Standing and listen to those who know his past work. Les Stroud, don't be on such a fast track into a subject you really don't know much about, especially if Toddy was your teacher. And if you had been working with Todd for 3 years as he claimed before the Survivor Man Bigfoot, then I must wonder if there is more we should be aware of. Oh, and was there also another Survivor Man Bigfoot episode shot there, Les? This mystery is not some race for celebrity gain. Don't you guys get it? Anyway, you were each taken to a place that was stolen from someone else. I reiterate, it is poisoned fruit. Not a good path to take. You each have pretty much avoided discussing Todd Standing or honestly addressing the contradictions he has raised, but now it's all coming home. Todd is clearly an opportunist who seems to want to exploit this mystery to no ends. Don't you scientists see this, or have you too been blinded by his silver tongue? What makes Standing an expert to say that Bigfoot even needs protection? He isn't. Sasquatch also don't allow themselves to be captured on film as he claims. Todd's sister is indeed a makeup artist. They had a sizable video production company under his alias name Todd Rockwell. There's a much bigger connection here indeed. His grandstanding about petitioning the U.S. Congress is also a joke. He has no legal standing here in the United States as he is not a U.S. citizen. There have been other petitions as well. Not to mention, he has no proof of Bigfoot in his phony videos. Ken was even able to identify the eyes that were used, but I can't recall their names at the moment. Todd never even followed through with allowing Bill Munns to examine his videos. Todd never actually validates anything of substance for that matter. The subject of Bigfoot is at risk of being made a laughingstock due to the events transpiring around Todd Standing. Todd Standing took each of you to a site that he stole from someone else, and by omission he let all the world think the work should be credited to him as the discoverer. Don't increase Todd's unwarranted credibility by selling him your reputations under what were false pretenses. In other words, spit out the poisoned fruit you have already swallowed. It's really saddening that you each didn't do your homework on Todd Standing or listen to those who knew that what you don't. Todd actually succeeded in filling a couple of PhDs. That is sad. Finally, we should all hold a certain amount of disdain for those who steal or reveal others' research sites. I've had to deal with it myself. It's sad to see when it's done on discussion forums too, because there is a greater cost which they don't realize as they are digging for the goodies. Those who have invested time and resources ultimately have results become tainted with the introduction of other people who affect the behavior of the subjects or even the environment. This can affect trail cam results, trust, interactions, and what some call habituations. Worst case scenario is when friendly interactions turn ugly when those who want to kill one show up in the same area you are working. If you were doing any kind of research in the area, would you like others tampering with your conditions? Think about it. You know who you are. Anyway, this is just like stealing someone's written research or intellectual property when inside knowledge is used for their own gain. I've even kept myself from posting what may be Todd's made-up Sylvanic location out of simple principle of the act. Even though it is mostly a make-believe name and description, there is a physical location that inspires imaginative creation. In closing, nobody likes a person you can't believe, and Todd has led the public to believe one thing in how he presented it as he took Meldrum, Bindernagel, Stroud, and Zohar there. Todd is not what he claims. Todd deserves no credit or endorsement for where he took you people. He stole the location and it cost those individuals at the end. There is an issue about ethics and integrity in a developing field that deserves a final word here. There are few with credentials that the rest of us count on to know the importance of upholding such principles. It's about honor. The question is, will those same individuals who have made a certain association continue to remain complicit and acquiesce, knowing the truth and how it led to their progress and their names being used? I plead with them to no longer ride the fence on this matter. Change course in a direction where the findings come because of difficult research and long hours. Rewards/results should be earned, not stolen. On a side note, and if they get a chance to read this, I would like to ask the original trappers if they will pardon Ken for the mistake he made in trusting someone. He truly regrets that it ever happened, and I know he is sorry about it, and that he values your friendship very much. We've all made mistakes. Count on there being more written about the situation as I amend and add to this article. Todd, you're a real piece of work. And now you're asking money from those who you fooled to advance your scheme even further? Toddy, once again, you have been a very bad boy.